ready to shake things up a bit. We're diving into humanocracy today.
Ooh, now that's a topic I'm ready for.
Right. So I dove into this book, same title, Humanocracy, and wow, it really makes you question like the very foundation of how we run organizations.
It's a bold challenge, isn't it? To look at those hierarchies we've always considered, well, just how things are.
Totally. I mean, that whole pyramid structure, the CEO at the top, it's like we're so used to it, we don't even consider if it's, the best way.
It's ingrained, right?
Oh.
But what this book argues is so interesting. It says, instead of power being tied to your position, it should come from your influence, your actual contribution, and the trust you build with your peers.
So it's less about climbing that corporate ladder and more about proving your worth, like every day in the work itself.
Exactly. Think about those companies known for being agile, innovative places like Google, Zappos. They thrive because they give their people the power to make decisions, collaborate. They value those different viewpoints, That's humanocracy in action.
I'm a huge fan of those companies. So how does the book contrast this with I guess you'd say, the old way?
Well, it uses the term bureaucracy, which...
Oh boy, bureaucracy already sounds stifling, doesn't it?
Right, and the book really digs into that. It's that concentration of power at the very top. Strategy gets decided by a few and trickles down. Resources, they're allocated based on, who's been around the longest, not always who has the best ideas.
It's that feeling of being stuck, like waiting for permission just to try something new.
Exactly.
So humanocracy flips that whole model on its head.
Completely. Imagine this. Influence. It's earned by what you bring to the table, your expertise, not just having the right title. Strategy. It becomes a conversation. Everyone's invited. Even resources. They're allocated more like, say, a market who can use them most effectively. Makes you wonder why we haven't always done it this way, doesn't it?
It really does. Okay, so this isn't just some idealistic theory then. The book points to real-world examples. They talk about Svenska Handelsbanken, right? It's a bank, of all things, that's actually doing this.
Yeah. You wouldn't think of banking as the poster child for radical change, but here they are. And the crazy part, it works. Their costs are lower, they've got higher growth, stronger returns, all of that compared to their European counterparts. They credit a lot of it to putting those humanocracy principles into practice.
I'm floored. What's so different about how they function?
Well, for one, they've totally decentralized their structure. Each branch operates with a huge degree of autonomy. They can respond directly to their customers, the ones in their local area, their actual needs.
That makes so much sense. Give the power to the people who are closest to the action, the ones who really understand the situation. But how does that play out day to day? Does the book get into those specifics?
Oh, absolutely. It gets granular. Instead of those dreaded performance reviews, they've got something called peer-based accountability dialogues.
Peer-based accountability dialogues. Okay, I am intrigued. Tell me more about how those work, because that already sounds about 1,000 times better than the performance reviews I'm used to.
Right. Just picture this. Regular, open conversations, but it's with your colleagues, not just your manager. You talk about the work, your goals, how you can support each other. It's a two-way street.
So less about judgment, more about collaboration, actually helping each other grow. I can see how that would build a much stronger sense of responsibility.
Exactly. And the book, it actually argues that this peer-to-peer accountability, it's more effective than anything top-down when it comes to boosting, both individual and team performance.
That's fascinating. It just makes sense, though, right? You're tapping into the collective wisdom of the entire group, not just one person's perspective. But how do you make sure things actually get done without, someone ultimately calling the shots?
That's the beauty of this whole system. The accountability comes from that shared commitment. Everyone is invested in the team and its success. And on top of that, the book stresses how crucial transparency is, especially when it comes to resources.
That's what I was just thinking about. If you're talking about funding for projects, who decides who gets what if there's no, boss saying yes or no?
Think of it almost like pitching an investment, right?
Right.
You have to lay out your project's value proposition. What's the potential impact? How does it fit with the organization's big picture goals? But here's the key. Your colleagues, they become your stakeholders. They decide if they want to back your vision.
Wow. So it creates this environment where the truly great ideas, the ones that resonate with the whole group, those are the ones that actually get support.
Precisely. And it pushes people to really think things through, build consensus, which, let's be honest, usually leads to much better outcomes. It all boils down to trusting in that collective intelligence, the power of the group.
I love it. This all sounds incredibly promising, but let's be real for a second. Changing how we work, these ingrained systems, power structures, huge. What does the book say about the challenges of actually making this shift to a more human-centered way of working?
You're absolutely right. It's no easy feat. The book doesn't shy away from those challenges at all. One of the biggest hurdles, it's that inertia of the old systems, that we've always done it this way mentality.
Right, so you're not just changing minds, you're talking about dismantling structures that have been in place, what, for decades? Centuries even.
Absolutely, and that takes a fundamental shift in how decisions are made, how resources are allocated, even how you measure success. It's about moving away from that command and control and embracing a culture of trust, transparency, empowerment.
It's like a massive cultural transformation, not just a quick fix. So where do you even begin? Where's the starting point?
Well, one thing the book talks about is the need for leaders to become what it calls servant leaders.
I've heard that term before, but I'll be honest, it's always seemed a bit, vague to me. What does it actually mean in the context of, this humanocracy model?
In a humanocracy, the leader isn't there to simply command and control. Their job is to serve, to empower the people on their team, to cultivate an environment where everyone feels valued and respected, where they can do their best work.
So it's less about being the boss and more about being like a facilitator, a mentor, someone who clears the obstacles and then lets the team, really fly.
Yes, exactly. And that requires a totally different skill set. You need empathy, vulnerability. You have to be an active listener. It's a genuine commitment to the growth and development of everyone.
That's a huge shift in mindset. What about those of us who aren't in leadership roles yet? How can we bring more of this humanocracy thinking into our own work, our own teams? What can we do right now?
Such a good question.
Yeah.
And the book has some great advice. It really starts with communication, being willing to challenge the status quo a bit, speak up in meetings, share your ideas, encourage others to do the same. Don't be afraid to ask, well, why are we doing things this way? And then propose those new collaborative approaches.
That's what I'm talking about. Take ownership, be proactive, and create that environment where there's open dialogue, constant improvement. It sounds like humanocracy is a shift for both organizations and each of us individually.
100%. It's recognizing we all have the power to shape the culture, create a more fulfilling, impactful work life for ourselves and the people around us.
This is all so incredibly fascinating. I could talk about it for hours, but I'm curious, for our listeners who are probably just as captivated by this as I am, what would you say is the biggest takeaway from our deep dive into humanocracy so far? It's like we're going beyond just like rearranging the office furniture, This is about fundamentally changing how we think about work itself, what it means, how we do it.
It is profound.
Yeah.
And it goes way beyond just any one company. This whole thing, this move toward humanocracy, I think it speaks to something bigger happening, a real cultural shift. We want work that has purpose, real human connection. We're realizing we can do so much more when we're not, stuck in those old ways of competing all the time.
It's like those old systems, they were built for a different world, a different time, and it's just not working anymore. We need something new, approaches that make sense for who we are now, what we can achieve together.
Yeah. Humanocracy, it gives us a framework for that, not just for workplaces either. Communities, institutions even, dare I say, society itself.
Imagine that. A world where we're collaborating more than we're competing, where different perspectives aren't just tolerated, they're actually valued, where every single person feels like they've got some ownership, some say in how things go.
It's powerful. And you know what? It starts with us, each and every one of us. We challenge the old assumptions, question the status quo, and we look for those little opportunities, those cracks where we can make a difference.
Right. So for our listeners who are raring to go, what's that first step? How do they put this into action today?
Talk about it. Seriously. Have those conversations with your colleagues, friends, family. Tell them what you learned from this deep dive. And here's the key. Really listen to what they have to say. I guarantee you'll come away with new insights, get those creative sparks flying.
I love that, because at its core, that's what humanocracy is all about, isn't it? Connection, communication, and that willingness to challenge the way things have always been done.
100%. Because this isn't about some big boss at the top dictating how it's going to be. We build this together through the choices we make, how we show up, that belief in what people can do.
This has been so inspiring, gives me a lot to think about, and even more, it makes me feel hopeful about the future.
Me too. It's an exciting time to be grappling with these ideas, to be a part of making work, making the world more human-centered.
And for our listeners, if you want to really dig into this, pick up Humanocracy. It'll make you think, maybe even question everything you thought you knew about how things work.
And never stop asking those questions. Explore. Push to the limits of what you think is possible.
Because the future isn't something that just, happens to us. We create it together. Until next time, keep diving deep and keep striving for that better tomorrow.